Many of you watching are likely familiar with the phrase terminally online. It's a sort of tongue-in-cheek description that's used to describe individuals with unhealthy addictions to internet forums, Discord, Reddit, and social media in general. Terminally online people spend every waking second of their day engaging in self-destructive, antisocial, and hedonistic online activities. But let's get one thing straight though, online terminality, it operates in a spectrum. You've got your least serious cases, such as that one guy that's always parked in that Discord voice channel, to the more serious cases, where the internet addicted are engaging in potential criminal activity and ruining their lives and the lives of others. From a man killing his family over a cam girl obsession, to an internet creep jailed for stalking a Runescape YouTuber, to an incel forum user busted for planning a sorority shooting, these are the internet's most terminally online. Today's video is sponsored by CookUnity. CookUnity offers batches of gourmet meals prepared by the United States' best restaurants and chefs and ships them right to your front door. Each CookUnity meal is prepared in a regional micro kitchen and are shipped at the peak of freshness. Fresh, never frozen, all you have to do is literally heat it up in the oven or the microwave. Their chefs prepare each dish with real ingredients, nothing artificial, with humanely raised meat and organic ingredients when possible. CookUnity chefs offer a wide range of meals, with over 7 different dietary preference filters, including vegan, paleo, and gluten-free options. And with that said, let's take a gander at what's on the Wavy Web Surf CookUnity menu tonight. So first off, we got these spicy chicken tenders with truffle roasted potatoes prepared by Chef Ruben Garcia. Man, these tenders are juicy, and the breading's got a nice little spicy kick to it, just overall scrumptious. Next up, we got the Italian beef ragu with zucchini noodles by Andres Mendez. Hands down, this is the most delicious meat sauce I think I've ever had, like honestly. Paired with the veggie zucchini noodles, this makes for a delicious, hearty, yet fresh twist on an Italian classic. And last but not least, we've got the short rib chili Colorado by Chef Hugh Aitchison. To say this short rib is tender is an understatement. It melts in the mouth. One might even call it succulent. Perfectly accented by these smoky chili Colorado fixins, this dish is a must-try for fans of Southwest cuisine. To think these are meals that you literally picked up off your front porch and heated up, it almost seems too good to be true. By now, I know you guys are hungry, so let me hook you up. You guys can go to cookunity.com/wavywebsurf or click the link below and use code WavyWebSurf50 to get 50% off your first order of CookUnity meals. Big thanks to CookUnity for sponsoring and Bone Apple Tea. In many incel circles, Elliot Rodger is considered a legendary figure. There have been many a incel that have aspired to go out with a bang like Rodger did, wanting to commit some heinous act of revenge on society for allowing them to be involuntarily celibate men. One such terminally online incel inspired by Elliot Rodger was Ohio man Trey Jenko. Approximately 21 years old at the time of this story taking place, Trey was a young man utterly incapable of finding romantic partnership. Disgruntled with his circumstances, Trey often spent hours browsing through online forums like Reddit, commiserating with other men struggling with female companionship, with him and others lamenting the transgressions they had been dealt by the opposite sex throughout their lives. Trey's online journey into the incel rabbit hole eventually led him to more notorious communities like incels.is. On one popular incel forum, Jenko had a profile where he authored hundreds of posts, many of which described disturbing acts that Trey had committed in real life against women. In one post, Trey describes an instance where he filled up a water gun with orange juice and sprayed a random couple with it in public, hit-and-run style. Those familiar with incel lore know that this orange juice spraying was something that Elliot Rodger had done shortly before his killing spree. Trey, who idolized Elliot, perpetrated this orange juice act on Rodger's birthday in celebration of the incel killer. On a forum, he stated that perpetrating the assault felt empowering. Quote, "I put some orange juice in a water gun. I was planning to spray some foids and couples like Elliot Rodger did. When I finally did do it, it was Elliot Rodger's birthday, and I didn't even know that. It felt like I was spiritually connected to the saint on that day. I drove up to them saying hi that day, and they didn't even look up. They just went, so they got sprayed in the fucking face. I suggest it to all incels. Extremely empowering action. Much like his incel hero, Trey would allegedly author a sort of incel manifesto, a document detailing his many frustrations with being an involuntarily celibate man. This manifesto was published online and was titled A Hideous Symphony, a Manifesto by Trey Jenko. In this manifesto, the author describes how he intended to slaughter women in order to get revenge on them for not having sex with him. He refers to death as being the great equalizer. He also alludes to murderous plans he had created. The loose details of this plan involving Trey getting military training and then once prepared going on a mass murder spree against women, college sorority girls in Ohio to be particular. Quote, I would hope these words resonate in sweet familiarity to fellow incels, either cognizant of their situation or not. I am already set up to go into the US Army. This training will be for the attainment of one reality, the death of what I have been deprived most, but also cherish and fantasize at the opportunity of having, but as neglected of, women. I will slaughter out of hatred, jealousy, and revenge. I will take away the power of life that they withhold from me. By showing there is more than just happiness and fulfillment, there is all-encompassing death, the great equalizer that will bear all of us into its seductively calm velvet of silence and serenity. And Trey wasn't just blowing hot air. Around this time, he would actually stockpile a plethora of items that were going to be used to enact his murderous plot. The items allegedly purchased by Trey include tactical gloves, a bulletproof vest, a hoodie bearing the word revenge on the front, a Bowie knife, a skull face mask, 2 Glock 17 magazines, and a concealed carry holster. In the summer of 2019, Trey would enlist in the United States military and was sent to Army basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. There he gained some combat expertise and got physically fit in preparation for his hypothetical Elliot Rodgers-style revenge plot against women. Trey would never actually finish basic training though, as he was discharged from the Army. While the specifics of what led to his dismissal aren't known, in December of 2019, Trey was let go for entry-level performance issues and conduct violations. In January of 2020, Trey found himself back at home living with his mom in Ohio. Shortly after returning home, he writes yet another manifesto, this one implying that his day of reckoning, if you will, was drawing near. This manifesto was titled Isolated. If you're reading this, I've done something horrible. Somehow, you've come across the writings of the deluded and homicidal. Not an easy task, and for that I congratulate you for your curiosity and willingness to delve into such a dark topic. He signed the document, your hopeful friend and murderer. Around this time, Trey would also begin conducting surveillance at his chosen attack location, that location being an Ohio university. It's said that for 4 days he intermittently scoured the university and studied its layout in preparation for a shooting. Around this time, the man had also searched various keywords into Google relating to his proposed crime, such as, quote, planning a shooting crime, and even phrases like, when does preparing for a crime become an attempt? At this point, it had become crystal clear that Trey was seriously committed to attempting some sort of mass murder spree against women at this Ohio college. And he very well likely would have killed sorority girls if it wasn't for intervention from Trey's mom. On March 12th of 2020, police would receive a phone call from Trey's mother, the frantic woman reporting to authorities that her son had just threatened to kill her with a gun. Apparently, after calling police after being threatened, Trey would lock himself in his bedroom with the firearm and refuse to come out. Police would arrive to the residence and order Trey to come out with his hands up. While initially hesitant, the gravity of the situation would affect the Ohio Incel, and he would eventually come out compliant with his hands up. After briefly questioning Trey, police sussed out that they were dealing with a deranged guy that they very likely just stopped from committing a mass shooting. He would be detained and they started searching the property and Trey's vehicle. In the home, they reportedly discovered an additional hidden 9mm pistol and various writings drafted by Trey detailing his violent thoughts. But the smoking gun in this matter was found in Trey's vehicle. Inside of Trey's car, police discovered an AR-15 with a bump stock attached. The presence of such a firearm carrying ominous implications in the context of Trey Jenko. The presence of the bump stock in particular being extremely concerning, as the device improvises a semi-auto rifle to shoot similarly to a fully automatic. In the wake of these developments, the Ohio Incel Trey Jenko was arrested and charged with one attempt at committing a hate crime. A hate crime charge such as this is punishable by up to life in prison. Trey was also charged with possession of a machine gun, which is punishable by up to 10 years, the charge stemming from the presence of a bump stock. In October of 2022, Trey would plead guilty to plotting an act of gender-based hate stemming from his incel ideology. The man has yet to be sentenced and hypothetically could face up to life in prison for his crime. However, in my opinion, it's unlikely that Trey will face serious prison time due to his crime. Many have made the argument that Trey didn't fully realize the seriousness of his actions and words around this time, and the man would likely be a good candidate for rehabilitation if only he received psychiatric help and therapy. Whatever the case, we're lucky that Trey was caught when he was, as it's very likely if things went differently and his mom didn't step in, we could have been dealing with a serious tragedy. But that, my friends, was the story of Trey Jenko, the Ohio Incel. In recent years, we've seen a rise in high-profile cyberstalking cases, with many popular female streamers and YouTubers in particular becoming the target of terminally online freaks with dangerous obsessions. But it's not just content creators with big follower counts that find themselves being stalked by freaks. Our next story showcases a bizarre and disturbing example of a deranged man who serially harassed and stalked a small female Runescape YouTuber. His unwanted advances eventually leading to jail time. Approximately 22 years old at the time of this story unfolding, Estonian man Kio Nay was an avid Runescape player, fully immersing himself into the world of Gielinor and its online player community. And it's through Runescape that he would come into contact with the victim of this story. That victim being a young female content creator from the United Kingdom, whose identity will be protected in this story for privacy concerns. This woman was said to have operated a small YouTube channel broadcasting herself playing RuneScape and providing commentary. While it isn't exactly known how Kio found this woman's YouTube channel, what we do know is that after discovering the woman, he became obsessed with her and her content. What begins as uncomfortable frequent commenting eventually evolves into Kio directly sending the girl disturbing emails. These creepy emails show Kio making various romantic advances towards the young woman. The man's approach resembling something one might find while browsing an incel board. Not sure if you've noticed, but all of your previous boyfriends have been losers, and it seems like you want to go down that path until the day you die. You don't know what true love is. You have not felt it or seen it. Let me assure you, there is one man in this world who is going to make you feel feelings you've never ever felt before, and who is going to turn your life upside down. I may be a little psycho, but it's okay because we're all a little messed up in the head if you really think about it. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because I'm bored. So very bored, and I have a great body and plenty of money. So I figured why not? And I'm very good at flirting, and I'm also very charming, and I'm a gentleman. The woman would do her best to ignore these creepy advances, and after Kio finds himself being, rejected and ignored, he starts getting aggressive over time. I know who your real life friends are, and don't even ask me what I'm going to do because it's all just thoughts and plans right now, and even if I had it all figured out, I would not tell. Maybe there's a third option called I will ruin your already pathetic life. Now that was not a threat, it was just me telling you what will happen. One email from the man said that he couldn't walk away and would keep trying and fighting until she said yes to him. I just can't stop thinking about you. As time passed, his threats of life ruination would eventually evolve into threats of physical harm, violence, murder, and I will do it, and I will do it my way. I will locate your house, wait till 4 to 5 a.m., and then I will sneak in, and then I will more than likely take you to my rented or bought place. Then I guess I'll just wait a little. You wake up, and now the best part. We will talk a little, and then I will make you SM, and then I will shave you bald and strip you naked. I will rape you and make you pregnant, and then I will tie you up and will torture you for hours, which will basically be me using my whip and other tools I brought with me to make you suffer and hopefully feel what I have felt all of these years. I won't stop hitting you before your body is all bright red. and then I guess I'll just end it all and stab you in the chest with a kitchen knife and watch you slowly die, and then after your last breath, I will take that same knife and stab myself. Yeah, you pathetic little girl, you're not worth it, and yes, I will get away with this murder, and no one is going to miss you, not even your parents and close friends. One less whore in this world, to be honest. Everyone should be thanking me. In light of all these heinous communications, the YouTube content creator would eventually block Hyun-nae off of practically every social media that she could think of. But this wouldn't stop the deranged lunatic in his obsessive quest to be with the girl, as Kyo managed to unearth the woman's home address and began sending an onslaught of unwanted snail mail packages and letters. In April of 2017, it's been reported that Kyo sent the woman photos of himself posing with flowers and holding a bottle of alcohol. An accompanying letter reportedly had writing from Kyo on it saying that he was drunk and missed the girl, adding that the girl was being toxic for blocking and banning him from social media. This egregious stalking behavior would no longer be tolerated by the Runescape content creator, and she would notify the police over Kyo's communications. This resulted in Kyo being visited and questioned by Estonian police, the country that the man resided in. However, Kyo apparently managed to avoid being arrested after persuading law enforcement that his communications were nothing more than an elaborate trolling bit or joke. In all reality though, Kyo's obsession was far more serious, and we'll soon find that the man was willing to go to disturbingly extreme lengths to get close to his obsession. In April of 2018, during the peak of his delusion, Kyo, fully knowledgeable of the RuneScape streamer's address, books a flight to the UK. His mission? Force an interaction with the woman by showing up at her home. Shortly after landing in Liverpool, Kyo traveled to the woman's residence. He knocked on the door and reportedly asked if anyone was home. The woman immediately suspected it was Kyo and panicked. But fortunately, the YouTuber's father was at the house at this time. The father would open the door and managed to convince Kyo that he had the wrong address. Kyo then went on his way, reportedly soliciting other addresses in the area, searching for his RuneScape obsession. Meanwhile, the girl's father notified local police about the situation and the man's stalking behavior. Kyo would return to the area the following day and was eventually spotted by police who had been given his description. Cops attempted to peacefully confront the stalker, but Kyo would take off running. They chased after him and eventually caught up with Kyo. The man was hiding in the back of a vehicle that was oddly enough being driven by Kyo's father. Kyo was immediately detained, and when police performed a search of the vehicle, they would make an unsettling discovery, a discovery that highlighted the potential danger posed by this deranged stalker. In the vehicle, police found a bag that contained a bizarre collection of items, many of which seemingly conveying that Kyo had sinister intentions in mind. The items included parcel tape, a screwdriver, gloves, binoculars, an eye mask, scissors, a hip flask containing ammonia, a syringe and needle, plastic flowers, and what appeared to be a gold-colored sex toy. Upon the discovery of these items, he was immediately arrested and charged with stalking. During his interrogation, Kyo would admit to the various disturbing communications sent to the young woman, and he also admitted that he had taken photos of the girl's home. As far as the items go, Kyo said that the mask was for his flight, but reportedly had no explanation for the screwdriver, tape, and scissors. It's said that Kyo later claimed that the phallic golden object found in the bag was simply a face massager and not a sex toy. Police, however, insisted it was a dildo. According to reports, Kyo's parents said that the man used the syringe to treat an infection that he had, and that the ammonia was used to bring Kyo out of epileptic fits. And to explain why the father was in the area with a vehicle, it's been reported that Kyo's dad was an international furniture salesman and just so happened to be in the area on business. The father was initially detained under suspicion of aiding Kyo in the stalking of the woman, but he was later released after authorities determined that the dad had no idea that his son was stalking this person. It's hard to say exactly what the fuck was going on with this sinister kit. While some of the items were given rational explanations, other items such as the screwdriver were not. And you also have to remember the disturbing emails that Kyo had sent, one of which described that sort of like torture scene that he had dreamed up in his head, and the items used in that scene One might think that this is like a prep kit to enact that. Because of this bizarre kit, Keo was initially hit with an additional charge on top of stalking, that being intent to commit a sexual offense. But this charge would later be dropped. The logic behind its removal being that if Keo was about to commit a sexual offense, he would have likely had the kit on his person, not in his father's car. In regard to the stalking charge, Keo's defense team claimed that their client was socially isolated and came to the United Kingdom, quote, not to cause her physical harm, but instead to, quote, progress in what he believed was a relationship. They basically said he had no ill intentions, he just wanted to go and talk to the girl and convince her that he was actually a nice guy and that he was sorry for saying all that crazy shit. However, this defense fails to speak on the emotional distress and trauma Keo's actions caused his victim. The judge presiding over the case had this to say: cyberstalking is a plague to the 21st century. The victim was left unable to sleep, and her trust shattered. In light of his stalking crime, the judge ultimately ruled to sentence Keo Ne to 21 months in jail and issued an indefinite restraining order to protect his victim from any future unwanted advances. In a story showcasing the ever-growing problem of online stalking, that was the story of the Runescape Stalker. The internet has seen thousands upon thousands of trolls, but few can say they have a legacy quite as infamous as Violent Acres. In the early days of Reddit, Violent Acres was known for promoting some of the site's most repulsive subreddits, including r/jailbait and r/creepshot. The internet troll essentially managing a variety of subreddits that encourage users to post photos of other people without their consent. However, eventually, karma would catch up to this destructive troll, resulting in one of the most humiliating troll unmaskings in internet history. This is the Violent Acres story. Violent Acres joined Reddit back in 2007. At the time, Reddit was considered a sort of bastion of free speech, and this was a big draw for Violent Acres. As an internet troll, the goal of this man was to post the most heinous things imaginable to piss off as many people as possible. In his quest to become the most offensive Redditor in site history, Violent Acres reportedly involved himself in upwards of 600 subreddits, many of which controversial. The most infamous subreddits associated with Violent Acres include r/creepshots, r/beating women, r/pics of dead kids, r/pics of dead babies, r/misogyny, r/Jew America, r/Hitler, and the most famous being r/jailbait. Users here would fish around the internet for scantily clothed teenage girls and post their images to the board. Naturally, most Redditors were completely disgusted at the existence of this subreddit, but at the time, banning subreddits was not a thing. And the more people that complained about jailbait, the more it emboldened Violent Acres trolling. Violent Acres was so autistically committed to his disgusting subreddits that he would make sure the rules were followed to a T. For example, on r/jailbait, he would require any post featuring women over the age of 18 to be removed. The man also not allowing any women with tattoos to be posted to the board. He only wanted minors on this subreddit. A post at the time from Violent Acres reads, "Please don't post pictures of girls with tattoos. You keep creating accounts, I'll keep banning them. The current mods fully support the no tattoo policy. Try posting some, see what happens, dumbass." r/jailbait became somewhat of a phenomena across Reddit in 2008. It was the second most searched term on the website and actually won subreddit of the year in 2008. God, bro, they were fucking wilding on Reddit back then, weren't they? Jesus Christ. To give you a better perspective on the mindset of Reddit's owners at the time, check this out. One of Reddit's general managers actually defended the subreddit at the time with this statement. Quote, "Such controversial pages are the consequence of allowing free speech on the site." Now, free speech is great and all. Doesn't mean, freedom of consequence. And eventually allowing this sort of stuff to run roughshod would have a bit of blowback for the site. And Violent Acres. During the height of the r/jailbait craze in 2008, a young Miami teenager had discovered that her images were posted to the board. The woman's photo bucket account would later be hacked and many lewd images of her were leaked online without her consent. The whole ordeal resulting in the underage girl getting harassed.
Getting harassed for 3 years now because of some pictures that leaked onto the internet.
Disgusting comments from the time read, when is her porn career going to start? Certainly a disturbing development, but Violent Acres was reveling in all of this controversy. It's exactly what he wanted to happen, being a notorious troll and all. r/jailbait would come under increased scrutiny in 2011 after Anderson Cooper produced a piece exposing the subreddit. The entire piece essentially highlighting that the existence of a subreddit r/jailbait featuring underage girls could possibly be illegal.
Jailbait. Here it is. It's what you see after you click yes to the question, are you 18 or older? No other verification needed, just click yes. But the presumption, at least, is that anyone viewing this page is an adult. The girls in the images, though, which we've blurred, are not. And in case you were unclear about what the group's about, they've got a helpful motto at the top left. Quote, keep a teen off the streets. It reads, put her in your van. Over on the right, there's a blurb reading, welcome to the Ephebophile subreddit. No nudity. Click here for more jailbait. Just below the more jailbait link is a list of moderators. Violent Acrez, not sure how to pronounce that. Also, I am an anonymous coward. Darkman X, and Religion of Peace. Needless to say, these are not their real names, not even I am an anonymous coward.
One of Reddit's co-founders even responded to CNN's segment, defending the existence of the controversial subreddit created by Violent Acres.
Specifically, Anderson Cooper basically accused you guys of peddling child
pornography.
Because if there's a stream for jailbait or whatever, which was young girls, not naked, but whatever, supposedly underage. I mean, what do you have to say to people, to Anderson Cooper?
I wish I'd been invited, Anderson. Reddit does not actually host any of this content. All Reddit is a repository of links submitted by users that go to other sites on the internet. Now, I could make the exact same indictment of Twitter. There are Twitter accounts right now that are just links to the same garbage and the same nonsense and all kinds of vitriol and all kinds of things on the internet that exist. And unfortunately, there is no, just like Twitter can't police this stuff, there's no mechanism to really, we obviously uphold the law, as long as what's going on is legal, there is nothing we can do to effectively police it because these things will always continue to exist on the internet because they'll always continue to exist in humanity.
Despite the massive news event that CNN's piece had created, the subreddit still wasn't taken down, and Violent Acres continued growing his trolling empire. However, there could only be so many underage girls getting harassed for nudes before Reddit would have to step in and ban. Shortly after the CNN piece was televised, a Reddit user would post pictures of a 14-year-old to r/jailbait. This thread led to the 14-year-old getting doxxed and hundreds of people private messaging her asking for nudes. In light of this controversy, the subreddit was finally banned. Violent Acres had lost his most beloved subreddit, but that didn't mean he was done trolling. After r/jailbait was suspended, Violent Acres began moderating for r/creepshots, which was a subreddit that encouraged people to take unconsenting photos of women's private areas and post them to the boards. And with the premise like that, you're easily crossing the line of free speech here and just committing straight up crimes. One of the most controversial instances on r/creepshot was when a Georgia substitute teacher was caught secretly posting photos of his own students to the subreddit. The teacher committing these voyeuristic acts was eventually caught and fired, the story bringing much scrutiny to the subreddit. It seemed like every subreddit that Violent Acres was involved with always had some sort of borderline criminal activity occurring on it, and this was something noted by the mass Reddit population in general, and journalists began picking up on Violent Acres' activities as well. Around the time of the Creepshot story, rumors began to spread that Gawker was planning to publish a piece on r/creepshots and Violent Acres. With Gawker being a more internet-savvy and internet-literate publication, Violent Acres started to get concerned that they may possibly be able to dig up his real name. Rumors surrounding this Gawker article turned out to be true, with writer Adrian Chin being on the case digging into the background of the famous moderator Violent Acres. Leaked private messages from the time show just how worried Violent Acres was about his real name getting leaked. When you added me to Creepshots, Adrian Chin of Gawker decided to hunt me down because he hates me. Jailbait and Creepshots, he has my real name and is going to out me on Gawker. Other leaked correspondences show Adrian Chin directly reaching out to Violent Acres, asking him if he wanted to be a part of the hit piece he was in the process of creating. Well, I'd love to hear from you. All I can say is that I'll report accurately what you say. I'm interested in doing a profile of you as one of the most influential users on Reddit and the site's chief troll. It seems like you have a lot of thoughts on the current state of Reddit as well, and I'd like to hear about that too. Still no interest? Violent Acre says, no, I don't think so. You have a habit of twisting things to fit your narrative. With Violent Acres now convinced that Adrian Chin knew his real government name and the fact that the Gawker hit piece was on his way, he would eventually decide to just delete all of his social media, including his infamous Reddit account. During his absence, the man's followers would become vocal on Reddit, claiming their troll leader was being unfairly hunted simply for expressing free speech, and accusing Adrian Chin of being a vicious doxer. One follower is quoted as saying, "No matter how you feel about Violent Acres, he still doesn't deserve to have his life ruined because someone is trying to make money at the expense of him and his family's livelihood." On October 12th of 2012, the fabled Gawker article created by Adrian Chin regarding Violent Acres would be released. The article fully exposing Violent Acres and shaking Reddit to its core in the process. In the article, the infamous Violent Acres account was revealed to have been created by Michael Bruch, a 49-year-old man who lived with his wife in a Dallas suburb of Arlington, Texas. Adrian Chin's article went on to detail Michael's relationship with Reddit higher-ups and how the company had been giving him preferential treatment and passes because the controversies he created made the site more popular. The relationship being described as an uneasy truce between Michael and the Reddit managers. Quote, "Once we came to terms, he was actually pretty helpful. He would come to us with things we hadn't noticed. At the time, there was only 4 of us working, so that was a great resource for us to have." Adrian Chin would also reveal in this article how Michael had at one point groveled to him begging not to release his name. Quote, "My wife is disabled. I got a home and a mortgage, and if this hits the fan, I believe this will affect negatively on my employment. I do my job, go home, watch TV, and go on the internet. I just like riling people up in my spare time." Michael worked as a programmer for First Cash, a Texas financial services company. About a week after Adrian Chin's revealing Gawker article about Michael Bruch, aka Violent Acres, CNN decided to do a follow-up as well now that they knew the man's name. Michael would agree to do an interview with the news organization and would reveal to CNN that he had actually been fired after the Gawker article was published.
Last week, the website Gawker revealed who he actually is. His name is Michael Bruch. This is what he looks like. That is who he is. He's a 49-year-old software programmer who lives in Texas. He's married with kids, and now he's out of a job.
As clearly communicated by this CNN interview, Michael's trolling activities as Violent Acres had essentially ruined his life. He had lost his career and was on the path to potentially lose his house and would be unable to take care of his disabled wife.
Sadly for me, I enjoyed doing that. I liked going in and making people really mad over what amounted to meaningless things.
Sadly, you say?
Well, yes, obviously it has affected me, it's affected my family, it's
Some would say it caught up with you.
Well, it did. It actually did catch up with me. I treated Reddit like a game. I just, apparently I have a gift for pushing buttons.
Michael's obsession with Reddit, causing controversy in Discord, essentially turning into a self-destructive downward spiral, and it's really difficult to feel sympathetic for Michael considering all of the damage that he had done through the subreddits that he created and hosted, and the damage caused to the unconsenting people that were posted to r/creepshots. After Gawker, in the second CNN piece, Violent Acres essentially left the internet, never again taking up the persona to cause mayhem online. It appears he no longer has any interest in being an infamous internet troll. The legacy of his actions forever changing the course of Reddit, with the platform eventually morphing from an anything goes sort of 4chan style to a heavily moderated and censored website. For better or worse, I'll let you be the judge. But that was the story of Violent Acres, Reddit's most infamous troll. The story of Grant Amato involves a man becoming obsessed with an online cam girl halfway around the world. The man's deranged fixation with this woman not only ruining his life, but costing the lives of his immediate family. This is the Grant Amato story. There was a point in Grant Amato's life where he could be described as a well-adjusted and even successful young man. Born in 1989 in Chuliota, Florida, to parents Chad and Margaret Amato, Grant had a relatively normal upbringing. Very much an active and family-oriented kid, Grant was closest to his brother Cody. Both attended Timber Creek High School and were on the school's weightlifting team. After graduating high school, the two attended college together, both entering the nursing program at the University of Central Florida. Cody went on to become a nurse anesthetist, while Grant would eventually work as a registered nurse at Advent Health Orlando. But it would be at Advent Health Orlando that the first glimmers of darkness in Grant's character would begin to become apparent. In June of 2018, while working at the hospital, Grant found himself under scrutiny by other hospital workers, with allegations surfacing that he had been stealing medication. According to reports, after being confronted with this accusation, Grant became erratic and reportedly expressed suicidal thoughts. Seeing the man as a possible threat to himself and others, police were called to the hospital. The result of this bizarre incident was Grant being arrested on suspicion of stealing drugs. He was later hit with grand theft charges after evidence was discovered that he had stolen vials of propofol, which is a powerful sedative medication, in fact the same one that killed Michael Jackson. According to reports, Grant's explanation for pulling the unauthorized propofol vials was that so he could give it to patients that he thought weren't being adequately sedated by the doctors. Despite the disturbing implications of this explanation, Grant's charges were dropped. While Grant didn't face legal repercussions from this propofol event, the legacy of the bizarre scenario would follow him, making finding a new nursing job all but impossible. Unable to find work, Grant, now in his mid-20s, found himself living at his parents' house unemployed. Not an optimal situation. And with no job to go to and a considerable amount of free time on his hands, Grant finds himself becoming immersed in the online world, more specifically, the world of online streaming. Grant became fascinated with the idea of streaming and found the concept of making money from the seat of a computer chair a compelling prospect. Seeing streaming as a potential way out of his dire financial circumstances, Grant attempted to build his own Twitch channel, where he would live stream himself playing video games. Though this streaming venture appears to have been a failed endeavor, with the man getting virtually zero viewership and never getting more than 30 followers on the account. But in all honesty, Grant's failed streaming career is nothing more than a footnote in the context of this story. What's more important is a website that Grant discovered while immersing himself into the world of live streaming. That being a pornographic cam girl website known as myfreecams.com. This was Grant's favorite place on the internet to go to when he wanted to let off some steam, if you know what I'm saying. Now, for those unaware, these cam girl sites are a little bit more involved than your traditional porn website. The whole premise of these things exist off of like parasocial relationships, with viewers coming in, basically donating to a cam girl to perform for them, and you know, you can also get messages sent back and forth. I heard this from a friend, not personal experience or anything. No, seriously. But yeah, it's like built off of a parasocial relationship, similar to like OnlyFans, how that would work. Very transactional, you pay me, I do this, yeah. Campsite performers get paid with tokens, which is a sort of on-site currency that is bought with real money. Performers usually have an hourly token rate and will perform special requests for viewers if additional tokens are donated. And Grant Amato was a frequent token buyer and special requester. Eventually, throughout his campsite excursions, Grant would come into contact with a woman that he found completely irresistible, a Bulgarian cam model by the name of Sylvie. Sylvie has been described by one journalist as gorgeous with dark hair, a beautiful figure, and an exotic Eastern European dialect. Grant would become obsessed with this woman and frequently watched her cam shows late into the evenings, a practice that would become quite the expensive endeavor, with Grant pilfering his family's credit cards to purchase upwards of 21,000 tokens a night, simply to watch Sylvie's streams. That amount of tokens converts to about $2,500. And we're talking about a guy that's blowing this type of money practically every time Sylvie went live. It's also been reported that Grant used his father and brother's credit cards to purchase custom lewd images from Sylvie, dozens of them, some of which were attached with notes written by Sylvie. She says, "Smile, my light, you make me happy." With such a seemingly personalized note in mind, you might think that Mr. Grant Amato actually thought that Sylvie was a potential love interest and the feeling was mutual. But anyone of rational mind knows better than to think this. In all reality, Grant was simply one of Sylvie's clients. And that's not to disparage the woman or anything. I mean, she's a sex worker. It's a freaking business, okay? I'm not your fucking girlfriend. However, what we find though is that Grant had become so immersed in this online campsite world that he became delusional and actually thought that he was in some sort of relationship with Sylvie. The following video is an excellent showcase of Grant's warped interpretation of the intimacy of their relationship.
All right, Sylvia. Look at me. I am outside going to check the mail. And I'm asking you if you can please, pretty please, send me one of your videos. I love it so much when you just send them to me. Yeah, I don't like buying your stuff. It makes me feel weird. Could you please send me one though?
One of the reasons that Grant had an aversion to paying for Sylvie's videos at this time was the fact that his family had began noticing charges on their credit cards. And Grant had done a lot of damage. In the months that Grant had been interacting with Sylvie online, he had stolen upwards of $200,000 from his brother and his father. $60,000 from his brother and $150,000 from his father. When the families discovered the massive expenditures and realized that it was from Grant stealing their cards, they immediately questioned him. But Grant would lie to his family, claiming that the money was used to promote his Twitch channel and to donate to other streamers for content. The family was obviously devastated by this financial hit. That's a lot of money. You might think that they would report Grant to authorities over this massive amount of money being taken, but they opted not to. Instead, Grant's father opted to take a more nurturing approach. He could tell that his son had an issue with internet addiction and was clearly suffering after being fired from his job. He didn't want to get police involved and get Grant charged with any crimes that could potentially ruin his life more. He would even still let Grant stay at the house. After the family had discovered the charges, Grant would go with his brother to take a sort of sabbatical away from the internet, a getaway trip to Japan, as a sort of intervention vacation, if you will. The family hoping that time away from the internet would allow Grant to come back to reality. Unfortunately, though, what we find is that this overseas getaway didn't curb Grant's voracious hunger for Sylvie. After returning home, Grant's relationship with his father festered after Grant started just resuming some of the same activities he had already been doing prior. Tension was building. I mean, after all, Grant had essentially blown through the man's retirement fund on a cam girl. His father had to remortgage the house to financially stay afloat, and Grant would refuse to get a job and make amends for his familial betrayal, opting to spend most of his time on the internet again. His father would eventually get fed up and kick him out of the house. After being kicked out, Grant goes to live with his aunt Donna Amato, and it wouldn't be long until Donna would start seeing mysterious charges on her bank account. He was back at it again, paying for Sylvie content. When Donna realized that Grant was stealing from her to fund camgirl activity, she threatened to press charges on him. But Chad Amato, still feeling a fatherly love for his troubled son, talked her out of doing so. In a reportedly tearful phone call with the woman, Chad describes the dark path that Grant had taken. "Yeah, I'm gonna have to work a few more years than I thought I'd have to, but it's okay. I'll do it for Grant. I don't want him to go to jail." The entire family was now aware of Grant's internet obsession, stealing tendencies, and porn addiction. But while most would give up on their loved one at this point, Grant's parents offer the man one more chance. They enrolled him in a South Florida rehabilitation center for people with sex and internet addictions. Grant would attend the rehab and reportedly made quick progress. In fact, he was dismissed from the program after 2 weeks, with rehab staff believing that he wasn't showing any more signs of addiction. After being released from the rehab, Grant was given an ultimatum by his parents, coming in the form of a written contract. This contract mandated that Grant had to immediately end his relationship with Sylvie and get a job so that he can repay all of the money that he owed to his parents and brother. His phone plan would also be canceled, and his father would set him up with a new phone plan that didn't have any data options. And he also had to agree to attend therapy. And if Grant didn't agree to these terms, he would basically be disowned by the family, or he could join the military and they would still keep him around. The contract was broken by Grant in short time. Grant would later be caught using his mother's cell phone and sending messages to Sylvie on Twitter. Once his father had found out about this, Grant was kicked out of the house, this time for good. No one left to financially exploit, and no way to feed his camgirl addiction. Grant had truly hit rock bottom, and it wouldn't be long before dark, murderous thoughts took over. On January 24th, 2019, Grant was at his family's home under the premise of collecting some of his belongings. At approximately 4 p.m., while his mother Margaret was working on her computer, Grant walked up behind her, produced a handgun, and shot her in the back of the head, killing her. Grant then waited for his father to get home from work. Chad Amato carried a gun on him at all times, but despite being armed, he too was attacked and killed by Grant after being ambushed in the kitchen. The final murderous deed committed by Grant was the murder of his once beloved brother, Cody. Cody was shot dead by Grant after returning home from his nursing shift. After slaughtering his family, Grant then attempted to stage a murder-suicide, the setup attempting to implicate his own brother for the killings. He would plant a gun next to Cody's body to give the impression that his brother had shot his family and turned the gun on himself. After staging the scene, Grant would leave the residence and check into a nearby hotel, and plotted his next move. A night passes with nobody having any idea that the Amato murders had occurred, but the following morning, red flags fly. The following day, Cody Amato's nursing co-workers became convinced that something was wrong after Cody didn't show up for his morning shift. One co-worker reportedly stated that Cody hadn't missed a day of work in 5 years. The concerned colleagues got in touch with Cody's girlfriend, who then called police and requested a welfare check to be performed at the Amato home. On the morning of January 25, 2019, at around 9 a.m., officers arrived at the Amato home and knocked on the door. After consulting with the supervisor, police got the go-ahead to enter the residence. Inside, they were met with the grisly scene consisting of all 3 of the deceased Amatos, Cody, Margaret, and Chad. Grant, being nowhere to be found, was immediately considered a person of interest. On the following day, January 26th, police managed to track down Grant at the local Doubletree Hilton Hotel. There, they would detain the man and take him in for questioning. While being detained, Grant is strangely compliant and behaves in a way as if he expected police to be arriving, the man seemingly accepting his fate. What follows is a bizarre interrogation. During the interrogation, Grant denies doing anything wrong. He said he wasn't responsible, nor was he at home during the time of the killing, claiming that the first time he had heard about the killings was on the news.
And I didn't do anything at the house besides get my stuff together and take it out to my car.
I know you've searched for something. I know something. I can't tell you exactly, but you said won't you tell me, and I'll tell you if you're being truthful. What'd you search?
When I had gone to the Panera, I searched for like top stories, Oviedo or Chuliota or something like that.
And found what?
And then I saw that there was, it was like just the initial, like it had like a video, but I didn't listen to the video, but it had just an initial thing of that there was shootings in Salton Circle.
But we need to know what happened.
I mean, I can tell that you guys are like leading me into a certain way of what.
The only thing we're leading you to is wanting to get the truth from you. Not trying to make you say something that's not true, that's not accurate. The truth, the end.
Did you leave the house with your brother Cody looking like that? Or did you leave the house with your father looking like that? Or your mother? Is that how you left your family?
No.
Despite his denials, Grant was considered the prime suspect and was charged with murder. Grant would later admit that he was at home during the time of the killing, but framed the entire circumstance as a sort of self-defense situation. On January 28th, Grant would be charged with 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder and was held on a $750,000 bail. The defense suggested Grant wasn't in sound mind when he committed the killings, arguing that he was so deranged and delusional from his online addiction that he wasn't in control of his actions. In July of 2019, Grant Amato was found guilty, and on August 12th, he was sentenced to life in prison without a chance of parole. Many of you might be wondering if Sylvie got wrapped up in this case in any way, and the answer to that is no. In fact, investigators and attorneys never even opted to interview the woman. After all, the woman was only doing her job, and anybody that comes psychopathically obsessed with you, it's not your fault that that happened, okay? But in what could be described as an online addiction that turned deadly, that was the story of Grant Amato. Those were the internet's most terminally online. Let me know what you thought about this video down below in the comments section, and let me know who or what you want me to talk about next. I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.